Hello and welcome. My name is Mr. Fuminaya, and today I'm going to show you how to make a Discord bot to report a collection sales on your Discord server. Now, this is an example of how it will end up when we finish. Now, if you want a solution that is already built and don't want to actually code anything, I have made this website where you can either invite the bot to your Discord server or join our server and see how it works. So just click on invite the bot, and choose a server. An example of this already working is this is the server, and here you will see the base C sales, and then if you make your own server you can have sales from any collection reported like this. The links for this bot as well as the code I'm going to show you will be available in the description, so make sure to check that out. Now, the first thing you want to do is look at what is ethers.js. It's essentially a JavaScript library that works both in the client and the backend with Node.js, and it allows us to communicate with the Ethereum network. So let's get started. Okay, so first of all, make sure you have Node installed. If you don't, go to Node.js and install it. It will also include npm, which is the Node's package manager, which we will use to install dependencies. And if you don't already, install git for whatever operating system you're using. And once that's done, we can get started. Okay, so once that's done, we want to create the projects folder. Let's call it Discord Sales Bot. And now you want to open it with any terminal. In Linux, you would use the native terminal. Here we're going to use the command prompt and just create a Git repository and use npm init to create the nodes package, where we will have the project's information and also the dependencies will be included here. So, okay, version 0.0.1. Okay, we don't need any of this. We will set the Git repository later. We can just skip most of this. Okay, so now the package file has been created, which is this. We can go ahead and open this folder on code, which is the editor I'm going to use. And here you can see the basic information. If you want to make a project that is private and make sure that it doesn't get accidentally pushed to an open repository, you should include this on the package JSON. Okay. Now, here we are going to add some dependencies which we need, and to do that we should use the console directly. So let's first install ethers.js, which is the library we need to communicate with the Ethereum blockchain. Now, as you can see, when you npm install, this gets added, the dependencies property with the library and its version. And the package log basically fixes the project's dependencies to specific versions. And here in Node modules, you have all the dependencies you have installed, which these are ethers.js dependencies. Now, since we don't want to have this on our git state, we should add a new file, git ignore file, and just type. So you can see that node modules has gone green, from green to gray, sorry, and that means that it's no longer being tracked by Git. In VS Code, you can see the files currently being tracked here. Okay. So now that we have installed ethers, we should also install Discord.js. Okay, so I made a small mistake, and actually we don't need Discord, we need discord.js, but it's okay, we can just uninstall it. Make sure if you typed ---- save, you should ---- save again when you uninstall. Okay, now we install the correct discord.js. Okay, so now we have the dependencies installed and we can get coding. So the first thing we should do is make a new file, an index.js file. This will be our entry point, and here we can import ethers.js. Notice I'm using the import instead of the so this is the ES6 modules version of the syntax, sorry, and this is the advantage of using this syntax is that it's compatible directly with browser. So I generally prefer to use that, and this is the Node syntax and it's not directly compatible, so we are going to avoid it, and we should add here that this is actually type module and not common.js, which is the other, this syntax is common.js. Okay, so now what we have to do is understand how OpenSea, for example, actually works, which is the marketplace we are going to use as an example, and we need to look at how the information about sales is recorded on chain. So to do that, we are going to go to OpenSea directly. Now here we can just look at any collection. Okay, so this one, for example, and here we can find the activity, and we see the sales and when they have happened. And notice this here it will take us to Etherscan, which is a blockchain explorer where we can find information about transactions. And here we can see, okay, so this token was transferred for that amount, etc., etc. Now what's interesting here are two things. One is that we can see the address of the OpenSea. This is the exchange for OpenSea, and we're going to look at that. And here we have all the pending transactions, the completed transactions. So notice that when we're looking at the sale, we know this is a sale, and you click here, see more. This is called atomic match. Okay, so now we know how specifically the sale transaction is called for this contract. Now that we know this is that the atomic match is a sale, when we go here, we know, okay, so atomic match are sales and cancel orders are something else. Okay, so when we are looking at the atomic sale, notice this here that says logs. Logs are essentially optional for on-chain applications, and when the smart contract creates a log for a sale, for example, it includes some information. Here it's decoded by hash. We are not interested in this. Sell hash and the price. Okay, so we are going to use the information provided here, the topics actually. These are the addresses of the maker and the taker, and we are going to have to understand what this means to continue. So if you go back and look at the transaction, you can see that 0x14 sold it to 0x03. So in the logs, 0x14 is the index topic 1, or the maker. He is making, in this case, the sale. Is the seller, and 0x03 is the buyer. Here, maker is the one who makes the sale listing, and the buyer is the one who accepts that listing. Okay, so now that we know how these logs work, we need to go and look at the orders matched event. So with ethers, what we can do is use the event listening tools and look for exactly this. So we can go over here, the API, sorry, on the events. Okay, here. Now what we want to do is essentially this. Now we will need to instantiate a contract, and we need this information, the address, the API, and the provider, and we will only listen to this event, in this case the orders match event, and when that happens we will process the information received. Okay, so first of all we should set up the provider, and the provider is basically, you need you can do this in several ways, but the easiest way is to sign up for an API key on Etherscan or any other service, and use that key to make authenticated calls to an Ethereum node. You can also self-host, but that's a bit more complex, so to get started this is the best option. Now we are going to go here. Now I already made an account, but you should sign up if you don't have an account here yet, and go to API keys. Now we are going to add, okay, let's call it Discord bot. Now here's our API token. We're gonna copy that and bring it over here. Let's make a new file. Let's call it secrets.json. We'll have a. Now it's very important that you don't commit this file. We could also just hardcode this, but that's a really bad idea. You don't want to commit code with an API key. So what we are going to do is add it to this file, and now add the file to gitignore. So secrets.json, and now this file is grayed out, so it won't be included in any commit we do. Okay, so now we have the API key, and with the API key we can create a provider. Now to create the provider, we can see how it's done here. Should be okay. Now here, as you can see, you can include several API keys, and this is actually recommended to distribute the load of requests, so you don't exceed the API limit on any one of the providers. So you can sign up to these other providers. I recommend that you do. So we can just copy this code. Actually, it's important that we use the Homestead network. This is the main net. There are others like Ropsten or Koban, which are testnets. And here we need to add our own Etherscan API key. We don't need this. Now our API key is on the secrets file, so we want to read it. Okay, so we have to parse the file, and it's in secrets.json. We need to import read file sync from the file system. Now we are going to grab this API key, put it here, and now we have the provider. Now with the provider, we can listen to events. So we will follow this pattern. Okay, we need to instantiate a contract. It's a new ethers. See that the DS code automatically detects the interface. Okay, so we need the address, which is actually the contract address, the ABI, and the provider. We have the first part, the provider. Now we are going to add the contract address. And the contract address is very simple. It's the address of it's this one, the exchange address. So we can just copy it here. And now we need the ABI. Now to get the ABI in Etherscan is really simple. Usually for actual products, people submit the code, and you can look at the complete code for OpenSea's marketplace, well, the part that it's on chain at least. And also grab the ABI here. You can just copy to clipboard. We're going to add. Okay, so this big chunk, we should, instead of placing it here, move it to its own file. A JSON file, which is neatly formatted. And now we just import that into Node. The same way we imported the API keys. Okay, so now we have the API here, and we put it. Okay, now we have the three components we need to create the contract. And once we have the contract, we can call contract on, which is an event listener, and the name of the event, instead of hardcoding it, we should go to the contract dot the name was, let's go to logs. Okay, orders matched. If you call filters, it automatically detects the events. And it's a function. This is very important. It's a function. So now we can grab the arguments for the listener, which are, as the intelligence shows us here, the structure as an array, and the event information is the last of these arguments. So we can just access it like this, since Args is an array. And to know what's inside, we can log it on the console. Now to run this, to run the script, we're going to add start here to scripts, and it's just going to be node index.js. Okay, so now we are ready to just call the script like this, and we will start seeing the sale events as they happen on the blockchain. But since we are not filtering who is going to do them, we will get every event. Now let's stop the script. Okay, so as you can see, there's a lot of information here. Let's zoom in on one of these transactions and see exactly what is going on. So I'm going to look here. We go on Etherscan, and we see that for this transaction, which is this one right here, we have 0x62, the maker, sale to 0x97, the taker. So we want to grab the information in here. Now to do that, we go back to the script and see that inside the event we have the property args, and inside args we have the property maker and taker. Now we are also interested in the price, and yeah, for now we are just going to look at this information. Okay, so the maker, again, maker 0x62 is the seller, so let's rename it, and the taker therefore is the buyer. This is just standard structuring. Now we know who is buying what, and the price. Notice that the price here is a big number, so this is a class from the ethers library. If you want to convert it to a number, you have to call toNumber on this object. Okay, so now we can make a new console log. Just with the basic information of what is going on. Oh, the price is actually this. Okay, so now we can run our script again. Okay, so as you can see, we got an overflow, and that's because the price to number is not really safe. So instead of doing to number, we should use ethers.utils.format ether, this function, and this takes a big number or big numberish as argument, and this will produce a readable string. So now it should work. Okay, now these are the actual ether values. Nice. So now that we have this, we can go and filter by collection. Now this is a bit tricky because the collection information is not actually present in the event. As you can see up here, this is the information. So we have to get the transaction in order to know which collection. In this case it was the OpenSea shared storefront. This is the generic collection that OpenSea has to let anyone mint for free, but this is the address 0x49, etc., and this doesn't appear anywhere in the logs. You have to go and get the transaction. Now to do that, we come here, and so now what we want to do is grab the information about the event. If you look at the info we got before, you have this function as part of the argument of the event object, which is get transaction receipt, and here is where we will find the other event logs. Now, if you look at a transaction, this one, for example, notice that there's the this is the address of the exchange, and this is the collections address. In this case, the OpenSea shared storefront, which is OpenSea's way to mint free NFTs. Okay, so what we want to do is just come here and get the transaction receipt from the event. Now notice I'm using the await keyword, so this is the sync await pattern, which lets us wait here until this async function has executed. So we need to add an async to this function up here. And now let's look at the transaction receipt for each event. We run the script again. Okay, so as you can see here, there are the logs, and in these logs you have several things. Now the first one will be the on this address. This is the collection. This is the exchange. We can actually go and look at what this is. Okay, so in this case it was an approval plus a transfer, but it's usually either one or the other. So we just need to grab this address, which is the first address, and that will be the collection address. Okay, so this is in logs. It's a property of the transaction receipt. And we want to grab the address. Okay, let's run again. Okay, so these are the collection addresses associated to each of these transactions. Now, what we want to do is create an event handler that whenever this the orders match event on chain happens, we get the bot to create a message and broadcast a message on a channel. So now let's go to and do the Discord part. So let's start with a mock. Let's call it announce sale. We will have a seller, buyer, and a price. Okay, and since we are going to be looking just at one specific contract address, we can hard code it. We will make it configurable later. For now, let's just grab whatever, this one. And we have to look at if Okay, only if the address of the event of the first log is equal to our collection address, only then do we announce the sale. Okay, so now we can add the Discord code. So to add the Discord bot, we need to first of all create a bot. We can just head over to Discord and then here, developers. Now to create a bot, yeah, we have to make an app first of all. Yeah, new application. Let's call it sales bot. Okay, so we need to, now we have an application, but we actually need a bot in order to add it to Discord. So we have to add a bot. Yes, sales bot. Now we're going to create a token. It should be here. Okay, yeah, good. Yeah, okay. Now we need this token in order to let our script log in as this bot and send messages or do whatever we want it to do. So we are going to grab this over to our secrets, and add it here as the Discord bot token. And now when we read here, we'll also grab the Discord bot token from the secrets file. Okay, so now that we have the bot, we need to add it to a server, and we should limit the amount of things it can do. So it should only be able to send messages, and since it doesn't have to react to anything, it's just periodically announces sales, we can leave it at send messages. Now what this does is create a number, a permissions integer, which we need to copy, and we will now have to create an invite link to add the bot to our Discord server. Now the easiest way is to just go to this website, which is similar to this. Okay, now we click here the permission to send messages, and now we need a client ID, which is on OAuth 2 here. You can copy and bring it here. Now with this link we can authorize the bot to join our Discord server. Now let's boot up Discord. Okay, now let's click here, and as you can see, it lets us select a server. Okay, only permission to send messages, we authorize. Nice, so now we have the bot in our server. Now what we want to do is update the announce sale function, so we have to move it down here. And what we want to do is that when there's a sale, we want to send a message on a channel. So the first thing we need is the channel where we want to send that message. Now to get that, we have to go over to Discord, and here you see we have this channel, and when I right click I get this button with copy ID. Now to get this option appeared, you need to enable the developer mode on set my account, settings, advanced, developer mode. Okay, make sure this is ticked. You can just right click, copy ID. Now here let's add another variable. We can just hard code this. Okay, channel ID. So to get this channel, we need to call this is an async function, client.channels. These are the channels the bot has access to, and we fetch the channel by ID. Now we have after this call executes is a channel where we can send a message. Okay, now we will see how the send message works, but it's important to make this function async. Again, we're using async await. Now notice the bot is offline because there is no process running it. So the next thing we have to do is come over here and get started with the code to set up the bot and send messages. So to see how that works, you can just go over to Discord.js and see their docs on how we should get started. Okay, now the first thing, here we want to set up the client. So we're going to copy this and we're going to use the ES6 syntax instead. Oh, crap. Yeah. Now we have the client and the intents. As you can see, IntelliSense detects it correctly. Now once the client is ready, we have logged in as this. Okay. So now we're ready to send a message, and let's do the same thing we have here. Okay, so seller sold to buyer at price. Okay. Yeah. Okay, let's just comment this out to reduce the noise. Now we can launch the bot. Okay, we logged in. Now it should, okay, it's online. And now on the sales channel, whenever there's a new sale, it should be able to send a message. Now we can grab the code directly from there is a very simple tutorial here on Discord.js, and the first things we have to do, okay, this is similar to the setup we have with a git ignore, and here is a config.json file, but it's very similar. So once the client is ready, this is really important. We have to log in with a token, which is the Discord bot token. Now we're going to have to put this up here. Okay. Now it's very important that this code begins to run once the client is ready to send messages. So we are actually going to move this over here and this over here. Okay. Now the reason it's not sending any messages is because we specified that it should only send a message when this specific for this specific collection. Now for debugging, we're going to disable this check and just announce any sale on OpenSea. So we stop the bot and let's set it up again. And now we should see some messages. Okay. Now you see. Okay, since this is working, we can stop the bot, and yeah, this is not very readable. So next we can make sure this looks a bit better. We would need the token ID to actually get the metadata and display the image, and so it's not this. Okay, now to get the token ID, let's see how it's structured. And you see on the logs we have the approval function, and there's the owner, the approved, and the token ID is here. Same thing goes for the transfer event. Now we can find this information on the topics array, which is on the log. So we can just get the topics, and its position will usually be here, the fourth one, 0, since it's 0 indexed, so 0, 1, 2, and token ID. Now, one important thing to remember is that this isn't actually this 2006, but this hex value. So we have to, this is a hex, so the actual token ID is toString on this object. Okay, so this now we can pass to announce sale, and we can modify announce sale with the token ID to return something pretty. Now, one way we can do this is to grab this token ID, and if you go look at LooksRare, on LooksRare you have a lot of collections. So, for example, MeBits, and if you click on a token for sale, you can see the URL. You have the collection address and then the token ID. So we can just hyperlink to LooksRare using their format and replacing this last part with the token ID, this part with our contract address. Now, if we send a message with this link on Discord, it will show as a preview in Discord the image. This is the lazy way to do this. So, oh yeah, this is actually wrong. It shouldn't be contract address. It should be the address of the collection. It's not, well, if we were only looking at our collection, we could put this one, but since we are looking at any collection, we should pass it as an argument. So address, address, and address. Let's call it collection address. And the ID should not be it's already a string, it's a hex string, so we need to convert it into a number by parsing it, which we can do in JavaScript with parsing token ID hex. Yeah, okay, so now we should be set, and we can run the bot again. So start, come over here, bot joins. Oh, I forgot to include the link. Yeah, so we should put this here. Okay, so as you can see with this, let's call it shortcut, the LooksRare already auto-generates a preview with a rich description for the collection, etc. So yeah, this is pretty good. Now, if you, for the final version, now that we know it works, here you would just do this, set the address to your collection address, whatever it is, so you filter only sales for the collection you're interested in. And also you could put this here, remove this argument, clean up a bit, the collection address, the contract address, the channel ID, all of these are part of the configuration, so we could move this to a config file. We have collection address on hand. Yeah, let's just keep the casing. I don't really. Contract address. This is for the marketplace, for OpenSys marketplace. Then there's the channel ID for your Discord channel ID where you want to report the sales. And then there's the network. This is the mainnet. And now instead of this, we do oops. Okay. We can remove here. And now we should be ready. Now remember we have set the collection address to one specific, so unless there's sales for that collection we shouldn't see anything here. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And if you enjoyed this tutorial, please don't forget to subscribe. I will be uploading more tutorials soon enough.